what I see. So we shadowed lots of political campaigns in different parts of the country. And what you see is such a stark gap in how women's campaigns look versus men's campaigns look. So if you were to walk today into any campaign, you would see that big difference. And it's not only just a mere matter of difference in women and men's presence, which is really stark. It is much more starker than politicians self-report, because they want to be nice about it and they want to, be socially give you socially desirable answers. But if you really look at those campaigns, they're gendered so heavily. Not only are the women present in women's campaigns more likely to be present in those, they're also taking much more lead. They're engaging in much more with the female voters in the course of those campaigns. And that is what is very remarkable. So even if you look at the images that come out from women's campaigns, as I've shared with you, they look remarkably full of female figures. When you speak with female politicians and when you ask them how they got there in the first place and what they're doing to navigate this really male dominant structures of power, which continue to remain biased, right? And I do want to share with you, one quote which just illustrates the kind of challenges women are up against, right? So let me share that with you very quickly. A male politician sharing this quote. Our society is a male-dominated society. Purush Pradhan Samaj. Men have to accompany and stay next to women everywhere they go, while men can go anywhere alone. It becomes a two-people job if a woman joins politics. So, that sort of summarizes the kind of, hostility women are up against. There are reports, in fact, there's one, violence against women in politics, conducted by the UN, which shows that 58% of female politicians identify the same members of the same party as perpetrators of violence. So this is what women are up against, right? So for me, however, a big part of the reason why I think quotas have been less successful, they could have been more successful, is how parties have responded internally to the quota reform. And one of the things that I've noticed across parties is that they haven't really changed any structures to improve the quality or the political selection remains exactly the same as it was before. And what I mean by is that it's not that parties have said, okay, now there are gender quotas, we need at least 33 to 50% women. So let's look for good female candidates. Let's actively go out and make lists. So all parties have some internal lists that they make before elections, right, of candidates. So let's really look for women, They haven't done that. So instead what they do is they wait for the quotas to be announced a month ahead, and then they field the wives and relatives, to some extent, not to all extent, to some extent of their male loyalists. So male party members' wives, who was waiting for, so a lot of people would say, right, seat ladies ho gayi thi. Seat ladies ho gayi to main nahi lad paya election, So what does that really mean is that, party would have nominated the man. However, the reservation, struck, and then his hopes were dashed, and he had to field his wife instead. So it's not that party said, okay, now there is a reservation. Let's look for all the good female candidates that exist in this place and let's nominate them. No, that's not what they've done. And why they haven't done it is come back to the weakness of parties is that they rely on all these patronage connections, they might have commitments to male MLAs or MPs or all kinds of these patronage structures that restrict them in actively kind of going about this process. And parties do routinely come up with ways to resolve conflicts within the parties, right? So for instance, they will announce something like no sitting councillor will get a ticket. So they do try to, there is a lot of conflict about tickets and parties do try to resolve it. However, because of this conflict, they have not really changed the structure very much. And as a result, they haven't actively gone about looking for good female candidates. And I think had parties done that, had parties paid more attention, had parties, for example, made parallel lists. So one of the ways would be, okay, there's going to be 50% quotas. Let's, for every constituency that we have, let's have a list of men and women. So what that would do is, then you would actively look for women. So you're not going to look for wives and relatives. You're going to look for inside the parties women. There are so many of them, right? So they've increased in numbers. So let's look for good women and nominate them instead. But that's not what they're doing. And I think that has been one of the most unfortunate aspects of this reform, that parties haven't stepped up to do that.